Hey everyone, welcome to SimbleThings, a channel where I talk about living with C-PTSD and everything that goes along with that. So today's episode, I want to talk about mentally escaping, which is kind of relevant. So it's weird at the moment because of all the corona stuff going on. Even though it's very central to what's happening now, and say if somebody's watching this video in like a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, it might not be really relevant, but at the same time, not talking about it seems really weird at the start of my video because it's such a huge thing that's happening right now. So yeah, it's kind of a weird feeling, and like I'm trying to keep the same upload schedule for my videos, just release a video every week, just steady, consistent. But I'm always like confused about, should I just stick to kind of topics that I've already kind of decided I want to talk about and ignore all the corona stuff, or should I mention that? Should I not? It's a bit weird. So this is something I had already like had the video idea like months ago, but it's kind of strangely relevant. Through my childhood, which were all just kind of years of abuse, you have to get yourself through it, right? And you have to kind of mentally get through that, and you build up different coping mechanisms, and some of mine were mainly like books and computer games, and then later on music. And they're really powerful in terms of the escapism, and you can really go somewhere else. And through like going somewhere else, it sparks your imagination. And it really felt like during my childhood that like my mind was my best friend, and which sounds really sad, but it's pretty true. So you in this situation currently where people can't go out, you might be on your own or whatever, being able to escape using books and maybe computer games or something like that, or some other way, it doesn't have to be those two things, that's just an example from me. For you it could be something else like crafting, or I can't think of other things right now. Insert your favorite hobby here, right? So yeah, in the current situation, it's kind of helpful to be able to do that. There's nothing we can do to control the situation going on around us. And that's something that we have to kind of really accept, because, you can't go against the grain there. That's a massive tide, and you can't find that. Like, how this develops is going to happen, and we each have like a kind of small part of that in terms of staying at home and staying isolated, etc. But that's all kind of happening over there, but we can find some kind of mental kind of space and freedom and be able to be somewhere else. Like, if you get, I know I've told some people maybe don't get into books in the same way, and they don't kind of feel this, but if you get into a good book, it does feel like you're somewhere else. There's lots of writers and stuff, but one that comes to mind is reading things like The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami, and that really felt like another world. And some of his books, like Kafka on the Shore as well. But I'll put like loads of different things over here of just different cool books or albums or stuff that kind of help me mentally escape. And this is 100% a coping mechanism, but a coping mechanism isn't inherently negative. It's something that you do to cope with a situation, and you can cope with that situation in a positive way. And I'd say in a situation like this where we're isolated, we're unable to control the situation around us, using books or computer games or something like that for escapism, to give our minds a break and be able to mentally isolate from the stressful situation we're in, that's really powerful and that's really useful right now. And it was really useful to me as a child. That's why my mind reacted in this way. It found its ways to cope, because otherwise you wouldn't mentally survive those times. And it just so happens that that's a good way to kind of help yourself in the current times we're living in. And in any kind of situations where you really are, there is something bigger going on, it does completely overtake what you're able to control. Because there's, the world's big, a lot of things can just happen anytime, and sometimes we forget about that because we're very insulated from that. And if you've got somewhere to live and somewhere warm to sleep, etc., we're quite isolated from the kind of things that can just happen in the world. So yeah, if you find yourself using some coping mechanisms during this time, and it may trigger memories or something when you use the same coping mechanisms in a different time, in an abusive kind of time. Like sometimes, it's hard to separate some of those things, isn't it? Like it's hard to be able to separate and think about, okay, I did this thing to help me in this kind of bad period, but then am I able to still use this coping mechanism without it constantly reminding me of this bad time? Maybe, maybe not. Like, you might need to think about what kind of things you used to do, but then think of something new that isn't quite going to remind you of that, but still gives you some of that mental escapism, like mental freedom. So yeah, try and find ways to mentally free yourself when a situation is out of your control. And coping mechanisms aren't inherently bad. They can be useful at times. And if you don't perceive them as negative, and if they're not negative in your life, then it's probably all right. I'm not sure if that was the conclusion I was trying to draw from the video when I thought about the video in the first place. Do you know what? Sometimes I don't think about what the conclusion of the video is going to be. I think I just think about the subject, like what is it I'm going to talk about, and then I just get to this end bit and I'm like, yeah, that's about it. So I'm going to end the video there. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate that. Any comments are really appreciated. Subscribing, sharing, all that kind of stuff. And remember, there is help out there if you want it. I always put a link to the C-PTSD Foundation down below, and you can always comment here and I will answer. Yeah, thanks very much. I was about to say stay safe. And I was watching YouTube with my partner the other day, and she said, oh, I feel like you can't make a YouTube video at the moment without saying stay safe. And I just kind of started laughing, and in my head I'm like, I said that on the video that I recorded the other day. I'm the same. But it kind of just feels like you have to say that. I mean, you don't have to, obviously, but may you live in interesting times, right? Stay safe, everyone. I'll catch you next time. Peace.